Hello everyone, my name is Rachel and today we are playing a pre-recorded video of Lila discussing on dementia. And my name is Rachel with Aging Advantage, and Aging Advantage is a nonprofit that helps seniors and disabled adults in the St. Louis area. With that, we'll let Lila take it away and we'll recap at the end.
Hi, I'm Lila Shepley, Certified Geriatric Care Manager with Aging Advantage and A Plus Aging Advantage. Today we're going to talk about kind of a Dementia 101 with some other things thrown in, and we're going to end with home safety for those living at home that are living with dementia. So to start with Dementia 101, all of my information is either from the Alzheimer's Association or from TIPA Snow. TIPA Snow divides the stages of Alzheimer's into 6 gems, and we did a whole presentation on this just the other day. It's sapphire, diamond, emerald, amber, ruby, and pearl. The Alzheimer's Association, their stages of Alzheimer's, and I'm going to be reading a lot from these things because it's hard to remember all of this, it really is. They have 7 stages, and their stages are stage 1, no cognitive impairment, stage 2, very, very mild decline, some occasional memory lapses or forgetting familiar words or names. They're not evident yet. The disease is not evident yet in a medical exam or really isn't apparent to family, friends, and coworkers. Stage 3 is the mild cognitive decline. Early stage Alzheimer's can be diagnosed in some, but not all individuals with these symptoms. Word and name finding becomes more and more of a problem and becomes noticeable to those close. The decreased ability to remember names when introduced to new people. Losing or misplacing valuable objects. Decline in the ability to plan and to organize. Stage 4 is moderate cognitive decline, mid or early stage Alzheimer's disease. At this stage, a careful medical interview detects clear-cut deficiencies in the following areas: decreased knowledge of recent events, impaired ability to perform challenging mental arithmetic, for example, count backwards from 100 by sevens, decreased capacity to perform complex tasks such as shopping, planning dinner for guests, paying bills, managing finances. Reduced memory of personal history, and the affected individual may seem subdued or withdrawn, especially in socially or mentally challenging situations. Stage 5, moderately severe cognitive decline, which is also moderate or mid-stage Alzheimer's. Major gaps in memory and deficits in cognitive function emerge. Some assistance with day-to-day activities becomes essential. At this stage, individuals may be unable during a medical interview to recall such important details as their current address, their telephone number, the name of the college or high school from which they graduated. They become confused about where they are and about the date, day of the week, or season. They have trouble with less challenging mental arithmetic, for example, counting backwards from 40 by 4s or from 20 by 2s. They need help choosing proper clothing for the season or the occasion. They usually require no assistance with eating or using the toilet at this stage. Stage 6 is severe cognitive decline, moderately severe or mid-stage Alzheimer's. Memory difficulties continue to worsen. Significant personality changes may emerge, and affected individuals need extensive help with daily activities. At this stage, individuals may lose most awareness of recent experiences and events as well as of their surroundings. Recollect their personal history imperfectly, although they generally recall their own names still. Occasionally forget the name of their spouse or primary caregiver, but generally can distinguish from unfamiliar faces. At this stage, they need help getting dressed properly. Without supervision, they may make errors as at putting pajamas over daytime clothes or shoes on the wrong feet. They experience disruption of their normal sleep and waking cycle, so lots of awake at night. And this is where it really starts to become a big problem for family caregivers because they're sleeping at night, thinking that mom or dad or their loved one is sleeping at night, when in fact, the person living with dementia may be wandering around the house, playing with the stove, trying to get out the door. This is when safety is just of utmost importance. They need help with handling details of toileting, wiping, flushing the toilet. They're having increasing episodes of urinary or fecal incontinence, and they experience significant personality changes and behavioral symptoms, including suspiciousness and delusions, hallucinations, compulsive repetitive behavior such as hand wringing or tissue shredding, and they tend to wander and get lost. Stage 7, according to the Alzheimer's Association, this is their final stage. Very severe cognitive decline, severe or late stage Alzheimer's disease. This is the final stage of the disease when individuals lose the ability to respond to their environment, the ability to speak, and ultimately the ability to control their movement. Frequently, individuals lose their capacity for recognizable speech, although words or phrases may be occasionally uttered. Individuals need help with eating and toileting, and there is general incontinence. Individuals lose the ability to walk without assistance, then the ability to sit without support, the ability to smile, and the ability to hold their head up. Reflexes become abnormal and muscles grow rigid. Swallowing is impaired. So with TIPA and with the Alzheimer's Association, there is a fairly predictable path that dementia, primarily Alzheimer's, and those related dementias follow. According to TIPA, there are 6 different areas you must look at with your loved one, client, resident with dementia in order to see the full picture. The first is their brain change. Dementia is a collection of symptoms. Consider what type of dementia they're diagnosed with. Is delirium present? Their self-awareness of change, the onset and duration of symptoms, and their ability level according to the TIPA SNO GEMS, and their retained and changed abilities. So that's 1, is the brain change. 2 is time. Are their days structured and meaningful? Notice if someone is experiencing time differently than you are. Consider these categories of time. 1 is productive, offering value and purpose. Another is leisure, fun and playful. Wellness, so time for self-care. Restorative, this is the time for calming and recharging. Waiting, not natural, not comfortable. And where or what? Become curious about a person's experience of place and time of day. So now we have brain change and time. The third is people and relationships. All individuals who interact with a person living with dementia consider their history with this person, their awareness of the whole situation, their knowledge of the changing brain, any hands-on dementia skill training that they've had, their current relationship with the person living with dementia, and their personal agenda. Very important, personal agenda. The fourth area to consider out of these 6 is the person themselves. Think of the person first and the brain change second. Consider who they were, their personal history, their joys and traumas, their life roles professionally, their family, who they are becoming, their preferences and likes and dislikes, their personality traits they had before and those that are developing now, because they will change, they can change, and their core values. So now we have brain change, time, people relationships, and the person. The fifth is health and wellness. Remember other health challenges and previous lifestyle choices contribute to the situation. Consider their ability to intake food and fluid, their medication and supplement side effects, emotional and psychological stressors for that person, their functioning of their sensory system and their sensitivity, their personal health choice beliefs and choices, and any acute illnesses, any recent change due to an acute illness. The sixth area to consider when working with a person living with dementia, putting together their plan, their care plan, is their environment. Brain changes impair the nervous system and affect the experience. So consider always, does this activity or environment feel friendly and familiar to the person living with dementia? Is it functional and forgiving? You know, can they drop things and they're not going to shatter and break everywhere? Is it forgiving? Sharing space. Is this person comfortable in a public place, or do they need to be in their own personal and intimate space? Their response to sensation. What happens when I see, feel, hear, smell, or taste something? Sensitivity to surfaces. Notice responses to textures I touch and stand or walk on. And social experiences. Notice my tolerance changes, expectations of me, and will need modifying. The environment will need modifying. The Alzheimer's Association has a module called Understanding Behavior. How would you feel and what would you do? Okay, those are the questions. Common signs of dementia, memory loss, that's usually the first one we think of. Difficulty planning, organizing, carrying out a task, language problems and decreased ability to concentrate, visual, spatial, and perception problems. And remember before we talked about vision changes. So spatial awareness, it's all tied together, it's all changing. Difficulty with complex tasks and learning new concepts, and personality changes. Statistics about behaviors, and that word is used, it's actually not used as much anymore as it was even when this was written just a matter of years ago. But anyway, statistics of behaviors, as many as 50 to 90% of individuals with moderate to severe symptoms of dementia display clinically significant behavior problems during the course of their disease. That's a high percentage and one we need to be aware of. It's going to happen. Be prepared. All right? In U.S. nursing homes, the prevalence of behavior problems ranges between 64 and 83%. Again, very high percentages. Be ready for them. Be aware that they're going to happen. Maybe have some plans in place for when things do go down that path and the assistance you might need in the home if you're keeping your loved one at home. Up to 90% of behaviors may be triggered by the caregiver approach. Interesting? Or something added to or missing from the social and physical environment. That is an extremely high percentage, which is why it's so crucial that any of us in a caregiving role, working with a client, with a loved one, with residents in a community, we need to be educated to the best of our ability, all right? Because if 90% is triggered by our approach or something added to or missing, we're responsible. So get educated. Remember always that behavior is communication. A behavior is the resident's way of communicating a need, a want, a desire. More importantly, though, the unmet needs that we've talked about previously in an earlier presentation, but we will revisit those today. Behaviors in individuals with dementia. Are these symptoms of the disease? Could it be something else? Are these normal? Always, 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 when you're considering a problem, what's the number one thing? Safety. Safety, because the person living with dementia has lost safety awareness. They lose that pretty early on. So safety is always number one, no matter what. So understanding behaviors. What are your daily personal needs? What happens to you when one of your needs isn't met? Even if it's something like you're busy and you miss lunch. With that expression everyone uses now, hangry. I mean, we get crabby if something is amiss in our routine and with our daily needs. Or if everyone, at work that day is being super crabby and what you really needed was someone to be nice to you that day. So what are your own daily personal needs? And think about if those aren't being met. And then think about if you didn't have the language anymore to tell somebody, right? All of our behaviors take into account past, present, and future. The person living with dementia only has the present, right? And all behavior has meaning. Behavior is an attempt to communicate. Even think of a child throwing a temper tantrum. Some people say, he's just being a brat. Well, a lot of times that just being a brat has maybe a wet diaper, has to go potty, wet their pants, is thirsty, is hungry, their sweater itches, they're hot, they're cold. Then think about what causes stress. What causes stress for you? What causes stress for the person living with dementia? Unmet needs, inappropriate stimulus, too much going on, it's too loud, it's crazy, too many people around. Changes in your environment and routine. Those create a lot of stress. Asking someone to do something they can no longer do. Mom, why aren't you using your fork for dinner? You shouldn't use your fingers, use your fork, use your fork. Mom can't use her fork anymore. That's why we need the education, so that when mom is no longer using the fork and is using her fingers, we don't say anything. All right. Fatigue is a big stress, as we know, response to perception of loss, and delusions or hallucinations. Behaviors are a problem when the safety or well-being of a person or another person is compromised. And remember, most behaviors are not a problem. They're a nuisance, but they're not a problem. So to identify the trigger, it can be tricky. Of course it's tricky. But to try to identify the trigger, because as we talked about before, we need to be the detective. It's up to us, all right? What happened right before that behavior was exhibited? Did Mary over there across the dining room drop her fork and it clanked? Did Sally yell out something? What happened right before? And what was the behavior? When did the behavior happen? Does this same behavior happen every single day at 4:50? When does it happen and where does it occur? Maybe it only occurs at 4:50 in the main dining room, but if John is allowed to eat in maybe the supervisor's office by himself, it doesn't happen at all. And who was with the individual? Was that person being a detective and being caring and being sincere? Who was with the individual? Also, look at the environment, the temperature, the noise, the lighting, the smells, the things, the activities, everything that's going on. Step into their world and validate. Like we talked about in the last presentation, validate. Naomi File, if you're not familiar, watch her YouTubes if she has them, I'm not sure. Read and learn all you can on validation. You need to step into their world and validate. Sally, I understand you, Miss Bob. Tell me about him. That's validation. Okay. Let's see, some fun things to do. We're going to make this fun for a minute. 101 things to do while visiting an older adult. Some of these will apply, some of these will not apply. Not all suggestions may be appropriate for a person with advanced dementia. This list is from the Alzheimer's Association. It's got lots of fun things on it. Let's see, bring photos of family or friends from days gone by, recent snapshots. Now, remember, the person living with dementia thinks you are 5 years old. So if you come in saying, oh, Granny, look at your grandkids, she's not going to have any idea because as far as she's concerned, she's like 25 or 30, you're only 5, so these grandkids don't even exist. So just know that you might not be getting the response that you are hoping for because she has no idea. She doesn't even really know who you are because you're supposed to be 5. Okay, just keep these things in mind. Share your own favorite stories and memories, light and fun. Bring vacation photos and souvenirs, things they can touch. Read the newspaper or a magazine, but not the heavy-duty news. I mean, you know better than that. Read religious or inspirational articles. Read letters from friends. You can tell when this was written. Listen to messages from family or friends recorded on a cassette tape. Bring videotaped greetings from family or friends. Well, now you can FaceTime. That might be kind of fun. Let's see, rent a videotape of an old movie. So, maybe download one or get the DVD and bring it in. Maybe mom loved to cook, or dad. Bring a favorite recipe book and explore or plan a meal together. That's really fun. Let's see, bring a pet if you're allowed to bring pets in. A friendly pet that loves to be petted. And remember, every single resident at nursing home is going to want to touch the pet, so be prepared for that. Let's see, do some light exercises together. Write some poetry together. Tell jokes to one another. Take a walk outside if the weather permits. Dance to the music they love. Make a list of all of your older adults' favorite books, movies, stars, and songs. Design your own Christmas cards to send. Make them together. And be sure to give your older adult a hug as you arrive and each time you say goodbye, which I think is really a sweet way to end their list of things to do. We're going to talk briefly about bathing. Can't talk about Alzheimer's without bathing. For some, bathing and showering is uneventful. And I'm going to read this because it's just so well written and there's no reason for me to try to recap it. But for others in the early stages of Alzheimer's disease, he or she may be accustomed to bathing independently. Now that independence is disrupted. There may be an aide or family member standing in the bathroom or right outside the door. Well, privacy is compromised, and the need for safety trumps a long history of modesty. But, again, the person living with dementia is not used to having someone right there, right? It can be especially challenging when the aide is female and her client is male. In this new bathing protocol, the cognitively impaired person may not recognize that anything's wrong, so it becomes verbally and physically abusive as she staves off the invasion of helpers and the disruption of her customary routine. Yep. Let's see. With the progression of dementia, the senses are triggered for the challenge to bathing. Seeing the water rush out of the spout or shower head may be anxiety provoking. The sound of the water may elicit a similar response. Multiple mirrors in the bathroom may give a house of mirrors effect. If it is a bath the person is taking, he may view the tub and water as bottomless and afraid to enter it. So again, it's that increased sensitivity, remember, to touch and temperature. The water might feel too hot. It might feel too cold. Some ideas, prepare the bathroom in advance. Gather all the bathing supplies. Make the room as comfortable as possible. Place all supplies within reach. Make sure the water temperature is just right. Give the person choices. Would you like a bath or a shower? Would you prefer to bathe now or in 10 minutes? Fill the tub with just 2 or 3 inches of water. Once they're in and seated, you can add some more water. Be very aware the person may perceive bathing as threatening. Sometimes it helps to play some soothing music or sing together during this. So not all the focus is on all of a sudden naked mom getting in the tub and she's terrified and she don't want you to see her naked and all these things are going on. All right. Always protect the person's dignity and privacy. Be flexible. If she's not going to bathe, it's not going to hurt her not to bathe today. If she hasn't bathed in forever, one of TIPA's suggestions, I'm sure the Alzheimer's as well, I just don't have that right here, is take them in the bathroom and get a warm, soapy washcloth and let them bathe themselves best they can with that. And that might be enough for today. Okay. We're going to go over home safety checklist. And this is one I actually did for a resident who was coming out of the hospital and going home, and she was a high fall risk and she had dementia. Home safety checklist. First, consider the living room. And you go in and you say, but this is the way mom's always had the living room. Well, remember, mom's not who she used to be. Okay. And remember, the vision's changing and lighting, they need a lot more lighting now. Everything is different now. Okay. So if you're keeping mom at home or your loved one, client, resident, be sure to do a home safety checklist and don't do it with what mom loves in mind. Do it with safety first. Okay. And then you can hopefully mesh the two together. So, living room, flooring. In this particular home, there was carpet. Well, the mom could not lift her feet up enough to walk on carpet anymore. And she kept kind of, lurching. And so the family was going to have hardwood put in. Of course, mom had a fit. I've always had my rose-colored carpet, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, the family had to, show a lot of tough love, and they had to say, if you want to stay home, these are the changes we have to make. Now, she was mild dementia, so they were able to reason a little bit. It was ugly, but a little bit. Okay, so flooring, carpet, keep that in mind. Transitions from one room to the other. Are there those little lips between maybe the linoleum and the wooden floor? And everything, look for everything. Little scatter rugs, they got to go. It doesn't matter who loves them and where they came from and how many years someone's had them. They got to go. Gone. Okay. Cords. Look for all the cords. Are they tripping hazards? Are they tempting to actually touch and pull out of the wall? Look at all the cords. Furniture placement. Can mom get from the chair to the TV, from the chair to the kitchen, to the bathroom, to the front door without anything in her path. Nothing. She might need some furniture even to use for balance while she's walking, but make sure the path is wide enough and it's clear and it has good lighting and there's no tripping hazards. Okay. Lamps. Have lamps all over the place. Have light, a lot of light. And make sure if she likes to sit in her chair and there's a lamp on the bedside table, that she doesn't have to stretch up to turn it on. She can literally just turn it on. And they have lots of lamps or light bulbs or something now that you can hook up to an app on your phone and actually control them that way. And you can do that even if you're not in the house. So that might be something worth investigating. I don't know that much about them, but they do exist. Lighting. When the curtains are closed, and maybe mom doesn't like the curtains open, she likes all that. She likes the dark. She doesn't want, she's scared people are peering in. Maybe that's going on. Well, when those curtains are closed, how dark is that room during the day? Right? Look at that. Or when they're open, how bright is it in there? Is it too bright? Are there shadows everywhere? Are there splotches of sun making patches on the floor in squares? You're going to have to look at everything, every single thing. And when you do this home safety checklist, it takes a while. Don't think you're going to do it in 5 minutes because it won't be thorough. All right. In this particular house, the closet with the vacuum cleaner was behind a chair. Now, when she was able-bodied, that was no big deal. She would just kind of use her rear end and push on the chair while she opened the door and reached in and got the vacuum, and it was no big deal. Well, she still wanted to vacuum. I don't know if she ever really did, but she wanted to. So we had to scoochy some things around so that when she opened that closet door, it opened all the way up. And she could go with both hands and yank that vacuum cleaner out. Again, I don't know if it ever happened, but that was one of her wishes. So that to be able to get to the vacuum. So we, of course we accommodated that. Easy to do. Make sure that smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors are there and working. There is no excuse to not have them there and working. Call your local fire department. They will install them. You can order them on Amazon. No big deal, but the carbon monoxide, crucial. And make sure they're working and make sure they're loud. And again, there's an app. I don't know if it's the Nest. I don't know what it is that, for example, if I leave my home and there's a fire in the home, I get alerted. Or if the alarm even just goes off for whatever reason, even if it's testing it, because it does do that like once a month, it tests it and says carbon monoxide detector working. I get that on my phone, no matter where I am. Then go into the kitchen. Are the appliances that mom uses, are they easy to reach? And only have the necessary appliances out. If she has a Keurig coffee maker or a toaster oven, but all that other stuff that she uses once a month or once every 6 months or never, put it away. Unclutter. Clear off the counters. Make everything really easy to access. If she starts saying, but I keep my crock pot on there because I make Sunday dinner every single Sunday, and she really hasn't done it in like a year, then you can move it and tell her that you will come over every Saturday and pull it out. And, I guarantee you within a week or two, that's not going to be a conversation. Part of the problem with these changes are they're changes, and that's hard for anyone to accept, especially when someone's trying to change our environment instead of us changing it. Let's see, are all items, necessary items, easy to reach? Do you keep the salt and pepper on the top shelf in the cabinet and mom uses that every single day? That's not good. Maybe just put it on a little lazy Susan or whatever on the kitchen table wherever she eats. So she doesn't even have to sit down to eat and then get up and get the salt and pepper and then put it on. Easy, 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 okay? Tables and chairs. Is there a kitchen table with 4 chairs around it and she lives alone and you're her only daughter and you only go over once a week? The caregiver might be there every day. You don't need the 4 chairs. More tripping hazards, Okay, just make it as simple, easy, trip-free, safe as possible. And if that table or chairs are wobbly in any way, shape, or form, please repair them, replace them, whatever you need to do. Trash. How does it get taken out? Does mom insist on taking the trash out every single day? Well, some people do. And she goes down 3 stairs to the little landing that goes to the basement, and she goes left and she goes out the door, and there's 3 more cement stairs, and there is a railing out there, but it's completely useless. It's totally wobbly. And the trash can's all the way at the end by the alley, and mom is doing this every single day by herself. Really look at every single thing. What happens if she goes down those 3 stairs to the landing and loses her balance? She's going to fall right down those basement stairs. You know, she shouldn't, maybe, depending, she shouldn't be going to the basement maybe anymore anyway. That might be something you need to address. Having a door installed, which we did in this particular home, with a deadbolt lock. Mom, and the key was not anywhere mom knew where it was. She couldn't go to the basement to do her laundry. She had an absolute fit. Of course she did. But it was for her own safety. And she got used to it, you know. She wanted to stay home. That was pretty good incentive. Let's see. Again, smoke alarm, carbon monoxide. Ventilation. Is the ventilation good in the kitchen? Okay. Is there a handrail needed anywhere to help her out? Then go into the bathroom. Where are the medications kept? Are they scattered? Are they some in the medicine cabinet, some in the hall closet, and some are in the kitchen above the sink? Where are they? And is she even able to monitor taking her own meds? Do they need to be removed from the house or put out of sight? And even over-the-counter medications, even expired medications, which shouldn't be there anyway. Those should be deposited at the police department. Grab bars. Have them professionally installed. Don't do it yourself. Don't get the suction cup kind. In St. Louis, there's the grab bar guy. He is absolutely phenomenal, and very important. Those are where they need to be, and they're installed by a professional that does grab bar installation, not just a handyman that says, well, I install towel racks. Not the same. Shower chair. You need one. No skid strips in the tub. Do you need that? A phone in the bathroom. You know, if the only phone is in the living room and she doesn't have a cell phone and she goes in the bathroom and she falls, how is she going to contact anybody? You don't want her laying there for hours or days. I mean, so think about that. And if there is dementia, even if there's not dementia, she may not remember if she has a cell phone to even carry it in there, or a cordless, because she's not used to having to do that. And now's not the time to be learning new things like that. Just think ahead. What's the lighting like in there? Are those towel bars secure? Because they will be grabbed. They will be. Outlets. Does she need an outlet in the bathroom? There should be a GFI in there by code today, but if it's an older home, it's not going to be there. But she blow dries her hair in the bathroom. Well, she usually uses an extension cord that goes down the hall and into her bedroom. Well, that's not safe anymore. All right. And the door, when it opens, if it opens into the bathroom, is there room for her to get around it and close it? So try these things out. See what's going to be safest for mom, even if it means removing the door. Okay. Bedrooms. Is there a lamp? Easy reach to the bed, right there. Maybe a clip-on the headboard. How's the lighting? Is there a flashlight that works right next to the bed? Is there a nightlight? There should probably be a nightlight or 2 or 3, all the way, especially between the bed and the toilet. Smoke alarm, carbon monoxide. Her clothing. Can she reach the clothes that she wears? Or is she digging and sweaters are up here and, you know, the underwear is down there in that drawer in her dresser and she leans over and she gets dizzy? Everything needs to be where she's not reaching up and she's not reaching way down. Okay, maybe think about hip to shoulders, maybe in that area for kitchen things too. You know, plates and glasses and those kinds of things. Don't have her reaching up or reaching way down for them. have them right there accessible. Maybe leave a plate in a place setting out on her counter, and that's all she uses. Let's see, do her dresser drawers open smoothly, or is it one of those old dressers that you pull, and if you don't pull at the same time, it gets, sideways and lodged in there? Are they heavy? If she pulls them out and they come out by accident and land on her toe, ow. Laundry, where is the laundry and who's going to do the laundry? And that'll be big. If mom's been a stay-at-home mom her whole life, a housewife, that's big. And fire safety. Are all these alarms working? Are the exits unblocked? Okay. Front and back doors, are they easy to open, easy to lock and unlock? Are there steps and handrails? The mail, where's the mail? Well, in this particular house, it was right outside the front door and attached to the wall right there. But that meant that mom had to come out, turn her body, hold the door open with her body, reach up kind of over and up and get the mail. It was really not a safe situation. So they moved the mailbox so that it was easier for mom to access when no one was there. And does there need to be a handrail down close to the driveway for her to get in and out? So that's the home safety checklist. It's important for all of us with aging parents, clients, to be aware of, to look at, to make sure somebody is conducting one. And we at A Plus Aging and Aging Advantage, of course, we will conduct one. Or you can do it yourself. Google home safety checklist for seniors, for those living with dementia. Pull together one that's appropriate for you. But make sure it's done, and don't put it off because it's extremely important. About 10 years ago, when my father was at the end stages of cancer, and I was more involved in their day-to-day life than normal, I was walking around their house one day, and I was like, there isn't a smoke alarm in this entire house. They had no smoke alarms or carbon monoxide. None. I couldn't believe it. And so I went to the Home Depot and I bought a ton of them, and I called the fire department and made an appointment, and they came over and installed them all and had a very funny but firm lecture with my parents about the safety. So anyway, not everybody has them, and they should. I hope you've enjoyed today's presentation on Dementia 101, behaviors, a little bit on bathing, and home safety. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
What a great video from Lila. I really appreciate being able to share her video about dementia, and it really spoke to me when she said that some of these changes are hard for everyone, not just people that have dementia. It's hard for the family too.
Yes, it's true. That's very true. I was remembering when she was saying like she had to go and get the smoke detectors in her house for her dad. I remember my father-in-law, before he was diagnosed, we wasn't really sure what was going on, and he lived out of state with my sister-in-laws, and he ended up, this behavior changed drastically, and his bedroom was upstairs, and so one day he ended up opening up the window and started throwing stuff out of the window, and my sisters were downstairs right up over his bedroom. Under his bedroom is the kitchen, so they seen stuff falling down. It was like, what is this, so they went upstairs and realized that it was him. He was doing that. So once they took him to the doctor, God knows they had to end up bolting down all the windows, so that he wouldn't do that. And he even dismantled like the doorknobs on the doors and stuff. So they had to change the doorknobs, just different things like that to be aware of, like she said. And it's very true, because they had to reduce so much in the house so that it wouldn't be a danger to him and he couldn't just get out and start walking the neighborhood. you know, 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, because he had done that before. So yeah, it's a big change. It's very disgruntling to the family when you're actually seeing your loved one, somebody that you're used to, being up and at it and bubbly and being independent, and they're losing their independence. It's difficult not only for them but for the family members as well. I agree, most definitely. So that was great. Good information. Thanks again, Lila.
Alrighty, well, we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. for another session from Lila, so we hope to see you then.
All right, thank you. Good night, guys.